This proposed Kirk Cousins trade scenario is getting more realistic by the day, and the financial breakdown actually makes it work for both teams in ways that previous rumors haven't. The key insight here is that the Falcons are essentially trapped by their own bad decision-making. They guaranteed Cousins $100 million, drafted his replacement, then bench him, creating a $27, $5 million problem that they desperately need to solve. The longer they hold on to him, the more it looks like organizational incompetence. What makes this Rams scenario particularly compelling is the Sean McVay connection that goes beyond just their Washington history together. The fact that Atlanta's current coaching staff includes Raheem Morris and Zach Robinson, both former McVay assistants, creates this weird situation where Cousins is essentially already learning a playbook that would translate directly to Los Angeles. That's not a coincidence that should be overlooked. Morris and Robinson are teaching Cousins concepts and terminology that would make a transition to the Rams seamless. It's like having a built-in head start on learning the system, which could be huge if Stafford's back problems force LA into making a desperation move mid-season or before next season. The financial structure proposed here is actually brilliant in its simplicity. Instead of the Falcons demanding $20 million in salary relief, which nobody wanted to pay, they could eat $17, $5 million of Cousins' salary, and send the Rams a quarterback who only cost them $10 million. For a proven starter with 150-plus career starts, that's incredible value. The Colby Parkinson contract swap is particularly clever. The Rams get to dump a tight end who's been largely underwhelming at $5, $25 million, while the Falcons get some salary relief and a player who could actually contribute. It's not sexy, but it makes the math work for both sides. What's really interesting is how this reflects the changing dynamics of quarterback desperation in the NFL. The Rams are in this weird spot where they're not ready to rebuild, but their franchise quarterback is dealing with chronic back issues that could derail everything. They can't afford to waste Cooper Kupp's prime years or squander what might be their last real shot at contention. Stafford's situation is genuinely concerning from a medical standpoint. Back injuries for quarterbacks aren't like pulled hamstrings. They can be career-altering, especially for a 37-year-old who's taken a beating over the years. The Rams have to be privately terrified about what happens if Stafford can't stay healthy for a full season. This is where Cousins becomes more than just a backup plan. He becomes insurance for an entire organizational strategy. The Rams have mortgaged their future with previous trades, so they need to maximize their current window. Rolling the dice with Jimmy Garoppolo as their primary backup is organizational malpractice. When there's a proven starter available, the timing element here is crucial too. If this trade happens during the season due to a Stafford injury, Cousins will be walking into an offense that he basically already knows. That's the difference between a smooth transition and a disaster that cost the Rams their playoff hopes. From Cousins' perspective, this would be career rehabilitation at its finest. Instead of riding the bench behind a rookie in Atlanta, he'd be reunited with the coach who helped launch his career and playing with elite weapons in a proven offensive system. At 37, this might be his last chance to prove he can still be a difference maker. The skeptics will point to those 16 interceptions from last season and question whether Cousins is worth even $10 million. But context matters here. The Falcons' offensive line was inconsistent. Their receiving core dealt with injuries, and the overall scheme never seemed to maximize his strengths. Put him in McVay's system with better protection and elite route runners, and those numbers could look very different. There's also the psychological factor to consider. Cousins has never won a playoff game, and that's a monkey on his back that affects how he's perceived around the league. Joining a Rams team that won a Super Bowl just a few years ago could provide the infrastructure and confidence he needs to finally get over that hump. The real question is whether the Rams are willing to admit they need this insurance policy. Sean McVay is competitive and confident, but he's also smart enough to recognize when his team needs contingency planning. If Stafford's back problems persist or worsen, this trade could go from interesting possibility to organization necessity very quickly. For the Falcons, this trade would finally allow them to fully commit to the Michael Penix Jr. era without the awkwardness of having his expensive predecessor on the bench. It would also free up significant salary cap space that could be used to improve other areas of the roster. The league-wide implications are interesting too. If this trade happens and Cousins plays well in LA, it could change how teams approach veteran quarterback contracts and backup planning. It might also influence how quickly teams are willing to move on from expensive veterans when they have cheaper alternatives ready. What do you think? Is this the kind of win-now move that makes sense for the Rams? Or are they better off sticking with their current plan and hoping Stafford stays healthy? And would the Falcons really be willing to eat that much salary just to get Cousins off their roster?